Hello and welcome back to Puzzling Places Dev Chat number 9. Today we have a special guest with us, Akin Bilgic, who is the founder and CEO of BRINK XR. Hi, Akin.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
No worries. Today is a special day because we just published a collaboration between BRINK Traveler and Puzzling Places, two games or experiences in VR that are built using photogrammetry. And we thought, what better reason to bring people from both companies together to talk about a little bit about our experiences, the collaboration, and just what it's like to make photogrammetry scans in VR.
Yeah, so cool. I don't think there have been too many like cross experience collaborations in VR yet. So it's cool to be part of one with you.
Yeah, for something that the metaverse is all supposed to be all about, like interoperable, I don't know, experiences or assets and whatnot. There really isn't that much, and so this might be one of the first, if not the first.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. So Akin, can you give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself, kind of, yourself, and perhaps also about BRINK XR?
Yeah, sure. So I co-founded BRINK XR with two of my two friends, Brandon Riza and Florian Bernard, a couple of years ago. I have a background in visual effects and gaming. I worked on titles like Halo and Dishonored while at Blur Studio, and done like product viz for Apple and NVIDIA. So I have a computer graphics background. And a couple of years ago, whenever I would kind of have a little bit of time off between projects working in computer graphics, like travel and nature was just a huge, big part of my life. Every opportunity I'd get to go on a road trip or go fly somewhere, backpack around, that kind of stuff. And that was kind of my escape from sitting in front of a computer for long hours and that kind of stuff. So along that way, like I got really into photography, got really into 360 photography back in the day, shooting time lapses as ways to kind of like capture and share that experience with my friends and family back home. And also just kind of like an artistic outlet for me because I'm a pretty visual person. So it just was kind of this natural thing. And then I think it was like 2015 or 2014 or something like that. Like I was introduced to a dev kit 2 at the time. And then, my mind immediately kind of went to this space of like, oh, this is so cool. This new medium of VR. And it's like this teleportation device. Like, what does this mean? What does photography mean for this? So, aside from just the obvious choice of like, the 360 photos, I wanted to feel the scale. I wanted to move around and kind of like really capture the experience of what it was like. So, I basically, approached these Brandon and Florian. These are people that I've worked with in computer graphics and VR before. And we kind of all just kind of gelled around this idea of kind of trying to create this travel experience that is, fully 3D and makes you feel like you're actually standing there. And that became the birth of BRINK XR. And then our app BRINK Traveler came out almost 2 years ago now. I think it was 2021. I think we launched like a week apart, but coincidentally.
Yeah.
It's been quite a ride since then.
That's awesome. What was your first experience being like even seeing photogrammetry for the first time? Where did you hear about it?
I was playing around like at the original like concept of like prototyping around what would become BRINK. Like I was playing around with like 360 camera arrays, like what happens if you put like 8 cameras with fisheye lens and that kind of stuff. And like I very quickly realized that there were like way smarter people than me working on that problem, and quickly abandoned it. Basically, I was just like, okay, this is not something that I'm going to be able to pull off, because I really wanted that. Like, I've always kind of been dissatisfied with 360 video or photos being presented as VR because it just that even in 3D, it still feels flat. Like just to be able to move your head a little bit like this to get that feeling of parallax it means so much for, conveying the sense of scale that you get when you're like standing in front of a mountain.
Yeah.
It's like, how many times have you like stood in front of like this amazing thing and you take out your phone and you take a photo of it and it just looks small and you tell your friends like, no, that's not what it was like it doesn't convey it. So
Yeah.
I think it was experimenting with that. And since I had a background in 3D, I was familiar with photogrammetry from like previous projects. So that's quickly where my mind went of like, okay, well, what if we like have a 360 that's around us, but also like photogrammetry on the ground? And then it quickly became like, what if we just had photogrammetry going all the way out and we just like use a drone to capture a really big area, that kind of stuff. So it was just a lot of prototyping. I was really lucky. I was hired. I worked at Oculus for almost 2 years as part of the Story Studio team. And, I was kind of immersed in VR, like early days. This was like during the launch of the Rift. I was there about a year before the Rift launched. So I was kind of like on the inside track there, like seeing the nature progress. So basically like, I'd be working days at Story Studio. And then in the evenings, I'd kind of come home and be playing around, prototyping with some photogrammetry. And then finally, I went out to Death Valley, which is not too far from us. It's like an 8-hour drive or something. And decided to try to go shoot something out there, try to, recreate one of those spots. So I went out there and took a drone. I think I was flying like a Phantom 3 at the time, big, huge, bulky stuff, and like just as a proof of concept. And, that was it. Like once I had this kind of proof of concept of like, wow, this kind of feels like I was standing there. There are problems here and there that I'll have to figure out. But it was like, it worked as a proof of concept. And then once I had that, I approached Brandon. Brandon has a background in visual effects. He's a visual effects technical director with like 15 years of experience. And he also like climbs mountains, like just for fun. That's his thing. And I was like, man, like he would probably get a real kick out of this, like to be able to, marry this computer graphics background with this photography and nature and outdoors thing. So that's kind of how it all came about.
Sounds like the process went from like monoscopic 360, stereoscopic 360, and then being like, okay, how do we expand the circle further? And turns out it's photogrammetry.
Yeah, and that was the big push for when the Rift was coming out, because I think the Gear VR was like 3DOF was like they're trying to differentiate between 3DOF and 6DOF. And since I was working at Oculus and Story Studio specifically, we were like all about 6DOF. So that's what that was the holy grail for what I wanted a location capture to be.
In terms of, you mentioned photogrammetry being something that you had used in some productions before. Was it typically used only for like asset captures or like, rock formations and whatnot, and less so for like full environment or place site scanning?
Yeah, it was definitely like specific asset stuff. Like I worked on, we did a really big Halo 2 remaster while I was at Blur Studio, and there was like extensive like facial capture stuff being done there. So like both photogrammetry and like using like a handheld scanning rig and stuff like that to like capture actors' faces and stuff like that. So it's mostly smaller assets that could then be used in cinematics or real-time engines and that kind of stuff. So never, this, inside out looking kind of thing where it's like huge environments. So that was kind of a little bit of the, stuff we had to kind of figure out along the way.
Sorry, you said Halo 2 at Blur. Did you guys work on the cinematics for the Halo 2 remaster? The 10-year anniversary. Whoa.
Yeah, which was like more than an hour worth of CG in like a blistering fast schedule.
Those are legendary. Those.
I made Master Chief for that one, so that was like one of the cooler projects I got to work on.
Okay, I'm not going to try to fanboy too hard because that game is really.
That came out great. It came out great.
Absolutely. So then, yeah, let's transition into Brink. So that's really interesting in terms of the founders have. It sounds like the two interests that you all three of you had are is nature and visual effects, capturing, and just photography in general. So, having those in mind, what were Brink's goals when you were first setting up the company or the experience that you wanted to make?
You know, it started from like very simple personal goals of like, I would like to spend more time outdoors, and have that be part of my job. Anyone who knows visual effects and computer graphics in general, it's a lot of time, long hours. It's hard work in front of a computer. So, trying to find a balance where I could kind of do both. And when I had that proof of concept of what we could do, going out and capturing locations in 3D and bringing it back and like presenting it in VR, it felt like this, like, I don't know, like this lightning strike moment of like, it was like, in Karate Kid, he's like learning the wax on, wax off, and then like suddenly like he realizes like he's been training for karate this whole time. I felt like these skills that I had been learning and doing for my entire career, and now my hobby of travel and photography, like there's this weird intersection where they all met. And that was just really, really exciting to me. And we wanted to see if we could try to, create an app based on that. And so we started thinking about, okay, in our mind, like VR is inherently this, like, it's a transportation device, right? Whereas like AR is like you in your space, VR is like taking you someplace else, right? So for us, it just made sense. I think, in my mind, I always felt that, this is a travel device. This is something that takes you someplace. So the places that I wanted to travel to were the amazing places that I've been, and places that I still want to go see. So that's kind of just this logical progression that came along with trying to build a company around this and trying to build an app around this concept. So early on, we just kind of decided like, okay, that's what we're going to try to build. Let's try to build this travel experience that will just have like a whole bunch of awesome places that we love going to, and sharing that with other people and making it really feel like it's the closest thing that you can get to being there and having that sense of presence. But a lot of these places, like, a lot of the mountaintops and stuff that like Brandon can get to, like I can't get to. And like, it's amazing to be able to like stand on the top of one of these like peaks in the Sierras or something and feel like I know what it's like to stand on that peak. And, we've gotten a lot of really touching emails and reviews from people that are like, I never thought I'd get to go see these kinds of places. And, or like I've been in a wheelchair and like getting up to the top of this mountain is just like completely out of the question for me. So I think as we kept working on it, this like greater purpose kind of emerged of like, this is really cool. We can make these awesome places that we love more accessible to everyone.
Yeah, I think Realities also was founded on like similar ideas and similar principles of taking people to letting them go places that they cannot go to and visit. When it comes to actually scanning these places, I guess, yeah. Can we talk maybe a little bit about that, like the technical challenges that come up when, let's say, you want to scan somewhere like the Wave? First of all, getting there is also difficult because they have like a limit at how many people they allow, right? It's a lottery. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. Can you describe kind of that process?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk specifically about the Wave because that's the topic and that's what we just put out now. But the Wave is a really special place, and I missed seeing it during like I went on a road trip like for about a month and a half with a friend of mine in 2015, and we tried to go see the Wave. And the Wave is this, for those that don't know, it's this weird spot kind of in the middle of nowhere on the Arizona-Utah border. It requires like 7-mile hike or something like that to get to. So there's no road that leads up to it. Like there's a dirt road that you have to take for like 10 or 15 miles, and then you park in this kind of like pulled off area here, and then you've got a hike, and there's no trail. It's like there's just like a couple of markers that you have to kind of like wayfind to get to the point. And basically the reason is it's like it's a very fragile site and it's really protected, and they only let 20 people a day get to the wave, and they split up those 20 people by 10 people pre-reserving a lottery online, I guess, and then 10 people on the day of. So, you know, you have to get to this ranger station that's like near, I think it's near Kanab. And every morning at like 8 a.m. they do just like, you know, you pull a number, and if you get it, you're lucky. If not, you don't. So every morning there's like 100+ people trying to get there. And that on that 2015 trip, like we tried multiple times and our numbers just didn't come up. So we left empty-handed, which was sad. Wow. But it had always been in my mind of like, oh, what a perfect place to scan, because it's like, you know, for photogrammetry, it's perfect because it's this hard surface that has like really unique, you know, pattern that's like easy to kind of figure out and process, and but it's also just this crazy unique place that like not many people get to experience.
Right.
So it was on my mind for a while. I was like, we can't launch without the wave. We can't launch without the wave among like other places like Delicate Arch, and like I had like this, you know, short list of like places I really, really wanted to have in the app. So in 2016, I made a specific trip back to that area, and we basically structured it that there's like, you know, I put a map on the, I included a map of the area basically, but there's like 5 or so places that are like in close proximity to one another that are all great scan targets that I knew I wanted to have in the app. And all of the other ones are more accessible than getting to the wave. A lot of these you can just go anytime. So what we decided to do is we'd get out there. I think we budgeted like 3 weeks out there. And just every day we were going to go to the ranger station. We're going to enter the lottery. We're going to see if we got it. And then if we didn't, we would go like immediately go drive and go try to scan something else. Right. And that's basically what it was. We were just like camping nearby the ranger station. Every morning we'd wake up, we'd go, wow. We'd wait, we'd lose the lottery, and then we'd go, okay, wow. Let's go. So we'd just kind of drive back and forth. And it took like 2 weeks of that, basically, of us like, we went and we scanned Antelope Canyon, we scanned Horseshoe Bend and White Pocket, and finally we got our number called, basically. Wow. And, you know, we were starting to give up hope. We were like, man, it's like 2 weeks now. I don't know. We were like starting to think like, okay, like, what do we do after like 2 weeks? If we're still not getting called, do we just like try to figure it out ourselves, or like,
how many people were there? If like you're there for 2 weeks going into the lottery every single day, or are you just competing against like 100 other people?
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
It's at least 100 people in there. It's you know, during the summer months. I've heard it's more now. I've heard they had to move it to a different building now because there's just more and more people. It's like exploded, probably because of like Instagram and stuff like that. But yeah, there's this. I took a photo of like the crowd while we were there, and I think that's just half of the room basically.
Wow.
And it was just like a kind of crazy experience to be able to, you know, see everybody really hopeful, and then 90% of people getting turned back. But it was kind of cool. It kind of added to the mystique of the place.
Yeah, I mean,
and then, yeah.
I mean, that's here's a picture of the lottery. I'm pulling it up on the video here. You won't be able to see it, but yeah, that's just a room full of people just sitting there, all waiting to see if their name is going to come up, huh?
Yeah. Every morning it was just that, and yeah, it's just this kind of crazy experience. And if you don't go through the lottery, like basically, like once we got it, like they hand you a piece of paper of like, here's how you find the wave. You have to park at these, you know, like you go up this road, you park here, you're going to look for this marker, and then Like you look forward and like this mountain, like you're going to walk towards this mountain for like 10 minutes and then you'll find another marker. And once you find that marker, you have to like orient towards that mountain, like walk this way 10 minutes or something like that. So if you don't like, if you know, you wouldn't know, like most people wouldn't know how to get out there without, without assistance. It's really out there in the middle of nowhere. And, there's all the other problems that are along with that of, you got to bring your water out there. It's the middle of summer. It's hot. So, we've got to carry multiple, like each one of us. I went with my friend Cody was my assistant for this trip. And he works as a professional food photographer. So he has like a photography background, but I'd been teaching him photogrammetry and he assisted me with this whole thing. And, both of us have to bring like a gallon of water for us to make this hike and get out there. And it's the desert, man. I mean, it's there's no trees, there's no shade. You have to like find some rocks or something to like kind of hide behind to stay cool. And it's dangerous. It's a dangerous place to get to.
What month was this?
This was July.
Oh, wow. You're really picking the hard time.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's when we had the window and, and there's also like, people don't think about it too often, but like the deserts get a fair bit of snow up until May. A lot of these areas, I'm not sure what the elevation of the Grand Staircase is, but I think it's like 5,000, 6,000 feet or something like that. So, snow can sometimes stay until June. So, that was it. It was just trying to figure that stuff out. We had other challenges. We rented a 4-wheel drive Jeep to get out to the Wave and White Pocket, which are both kind of close to one another. And, we were going up these dunes and like the roll bar from the back, just came loose and like punctured the rear tire. And there was like nothing we could do about it because the bar was in the way from us to be able to put the spare on. And luckily I could hike up to like the top of a hill and I had like one bar of service. It was just enough to call for help and stuff like that. It's a wild place, man.
I just pulled up the picture that you sent me of the Jeep. Yeah, you have it propped up on the wheel itself, like the rear axle.
Yeah. It was a trip, man. Like it's it was this older Jeep that we had rented, and we ended up having to stay overnight because like we were leaving the site like at sunset basically, and then the first opportunity that anybody could come and try to help us was going to be in the morning. So we just set up the tents and just, chilled out in the area. But yeah,
this is the beauty, I think, of all these scans. Like every single one of these scans, every puzzle we've made or every scan that I've come across always has an interesting story about how, they're shot and made. And so this is one of the harder ones, I have to say. It's not only difficult, but also exclusive and very difficult to actually gain access to. So
yeah,
that's quite amazing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that it's kind of the Wave is ideal for photogrammetry. Like, what about it makes it so ideal? And did it work out in the way that you had hoped that it would?
It's. I think there are a number of things that help with it. First off, it's hard surface stuff. There's not a lot of bushes, no trees, no shrubs that like photogrammetry kind of gets a little, it's difficult to reproduce in photogrammetry. Being a low traffic area is awesome. So you don't have to like worry about too many people in your shots. One of the other locations in BRINK Traveler is Delicate Arch, which has 100 people around it at any given time. And that was a challenge to shoot for like totally different reasons because we'd have to just kind of like work around the crowd to be able to scan that. But like since the Wave is so isolated, it was like for an hour at a time, sometimes we just have it to ourselves to take any photos that we need to. But it was there are some challenges involved with that too. It's it's kind of got these strange formations and columns. There's a lot of like vertical walls and stuff. So it's like you're in a race against time with the sun, before lighting has shifted too much, and this canyon that had no sun a moment ago is now like fully illuminated. So it required like a good amount of like texture cleanup to like fix some of that kind of stuff. But otherwise, it was like a really great location, and it's kind of, it's big, it's open, but it's also kind of contained a little bit. It's like this bowl, so it doesn't really like go all the way out to the horizon, and just from taking the ground photography, you're able to get almost everything.
Right. Yeah, because as from a VR experience, it's a self-contained environment that you don't have to, artificially put walls to limit people from going further.
Yeah, exactly. And it lends itself, I think, to it. And it's like those vibrant colors and the patterns and the formations. It's just easy to pick out features that you want to track and that kind of stuff. So it was helpful for that. It's definitely like a photogrammetry friendly location.
Yeah. I think that I can show you now what the audience, what the scan that Akin took actually looks like. So this is the let's just call it the source model itself, and of course you did something a little bit extra, which is you put a person, a photographer actually, with a camera for scale, and I think this gives it a really, really good understanding of like how big of an area this is that we're looking at. In fact, this even looks like you. I don't think this is you, but the model really looks like you.
Yeah.
That's really nice. The site is absolutely gorgeous with all these like geometric lines. And in terms of like why we initially were interested in turning this into a puzzle, here, let me make it full screen for the audience. The reason why we thought this might be a really good puzzle is because of these lines. Like whenever we're looking through photogrammetry scans, we're always looking for things like, does the site have regional, like does it have very clear regions where like, okay, this side is snowy, that side is not, or this side is very shady, this side is bright, because that'll give us that gives players really nice like global features that will help them figure out where the pieces will go. So this side, of course, had not only lighting differences, so like very directional lighting, with here we can even find where the sun is coming from, probably from right around here. But also it has these like wonderful lines, which if your pieces are rotated, if you're trying to figure out how the pieces go together, the lines give you really clear ideas about how these things will go. Of course, it's not that easy of a puzzle because the lines, warp around the geometry of the site.
Yeah, it could trick you.
It's tricky. Like these lines, are not parallel to these lines, and so these lines aren't either. And of course, when it comes to the colors, there's some areas that are very colorful to each other, like within the region, but they're different from the other sites. So like that gives you an idea of like, okay, maybe you should go over here. So here's a few things that we did. So one of the things we wanted to add is, as we were playtesting the site, is we're like, okay, this is really cool, this is really fun. However, it's still on the very difficult scale of puzzles, and we wanted to find a way of like adding a bit more flow, a bit more element into it. So one of the game designers or art directors on the team, Shah, who many of the listeners of Dev Chat know because he's been on many of the episodes. He had the great idea of like, why don't we actually use the cloud feature that we had developed in some of the previous puzzles. So about a year ago, we had the Blue Temple where we actually did have a cloud baked into the texture, but that one wasn't moving. But over the months, we found a way of actually creating these moving clouds, which is really cool. We used a very similar effect in the Halloween puzzle. So in the Halloween puzzle, we had a like this fog, this very cool fog that was going through this haunted mansion, and so that
I love that one.
Yeah, players really dug that, and so we were like, why don't we keep using this idea and kind of like use it as clouds. So here we did that. I'm sorry if the video is at least in the Discord stream is being kind of difficult. So I'm going to be moving the camera here, and you won't be able to see it, but it'll look better on YouTube afterwards. The other thing we did was we wanted to really play with the colors. So we tried to like saturate the colors a bit, but not too much. We wanted to accentuate the colors of the different regions. So in this right side of the site, like it's much more white. On the left side, it's much more dark and gloomy. And so we tried to like really emphasize those areas. There's these like rock formations outside of the lined areas where we wanted to like make sure that players could figure out that there's differences between the two. This is obviously a static scene. It's that the clouds aren't moving, but you get the point in terms of how that works. The other thing we also did was, of course, the sound design. So this was it's like I think the desert has something very magical and very special when it comes to the wind, the sounds. Sometimes there's also like creatures that live there or like animals. It's not actually like a lifeless place. It's actually desert biome has like a lot of life. Just very different than most other biomes. So we really leaned into that. But of course, the thing that was really interesting is that deserts also have inspired a lot of art, both paintings but also music, like especially like electric guitar, like really chill, or especially the older sort of rock thing. Music has been inspired by people spending time in the desert, and so we also leaned into that as well here. And so as you play the puzzle, you'll really get to hear that. So I think I can play the trailer, in fact, which will showcase a little bit of that. There's a lot of wind that it starts off with here. Just a little bit of a glimpse of what the puzzle is, and just to kind of capture the idea of the puzzle is to capture the epicness of the location, the epicness of the site, and everything that kind of comes along with that. So
I love it. It fits it so well. It fits the personality of that location so well. I feel like you just did a great job on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this has just been a really fun project for us to work on, especially because we're always looking for new puzzles to work on. We're always looking for new sites to scan. And, what better way to do that than to work with other photogrammetry and VR companies that have also done scouting themselves. They have places that they've interested in, and also they already have a theme in mind. They also have like an idea that they've captured. And so Puzzling Places likes to like play on those themes, play on those ideas, and just offer a different game mechanic. So I'm really happy.
It's so great. It's so smart. It's such a great mechanic, I think,
I wanted to ask you this actually earlier, but I forgot, which is that, you coming from a game design background or like just working on games, when you're building Brink or any other VR experience, did you find that like it gave you a different sense of freedom to build something that's not the traditional sort of game? Like, clear, like Brink, the fact that in Brink you don't have a gun with you, you don't have anything to do like that with you, right? Like, you don't have that clear objective that you have in other traditional games. Like, do you think VR opened up like a new type of experience design for you?
I think so. I definitely think so. It's something that it's a challenge, and it's something that we struggle with from time to time, because it's definitely, swimming against the stream. I think both of our experiences are a little bit where, VR primarily, a lot of first person shooters, a lot of, fitness, obviously, Beat Saber, that kind of stuff. So to kind of go in an opposite direction and be like, look, this is specifically a travel app that's meant to make you feel like you're traveling to other places and give you a glimpse of these things. It's something that's it's kind of it's a difficult line to walk, because we have to play a little bit towards those mechanics and things that people are used to and expecting in VR, and I think that we work very, very hard. At least half of our work that we put into our app is in UX design and making it feel very fluid. And everything that we do in our app, we design to kind of elicit feelings of travel. We use postcards for a menu, and post-it boards and that kind of stuff. All of these things, we're trying to kind of utilize this new medium and elicit these feelings that are hard to do in any other medium. But you still have to meet people halfway, right? You still have to give them a fun experience. It has to feel rewarding and tap on some of those familiar things. So like originally when we were first prototyping the version 1 of the app, that was one of the things that immediately became clear to us, of like, it's not just enough to let people see travel from place to place, but there need to be a few mechanics that let people find things in these locations. So we added this compass that you can use to then like find other places to teleport between, and also pull up points of information so that you can like learn about these places. So yeah, it's definitely like this. It's a little bit of a challenging process to be able to give people some of that stuff that they want and they would expect from a VR game, but also not go full on and like, here's your shotgun, go do this thing, And, I think that's one of the things that you guys do so well too. It's this, I remember trying Puzzling Places, as soon as our apps launched. And, I think I wrote a review early on of like, I really don't, I have no, like I don't do puzzles in my own time. Like I barely do this, but this is so cool. This is so fun, and it feels great. And it's like this new way to come up with this way to present photogrammetry assets that I thought was just so clever and so genius. And it's like, I love it. It's a great way to kind of like unwind at the end of the day and just like fire up a puzzle, and like, while I'm doing that, I can like kind of be thinking through some of the problems that I'm dealing with. And, I think that's kind of taps into the real power of VR. It's right. This new medium that like nobody really quite knows. There's no like best practices yet. Like everybody's still figuring it out. Right. And I think that's kind of what excites me about working in this space, at least in both the capture sense of it and in the VR game design sense of it. I think it's just unique, blue sky. There's a lot of opportunity to figure things out, and it's so cool to see what other people are doing in that space too. It just inspires me to keep going.
Yeah. One thing that's worth noting here is that scale actually in VR can be adjusted to totally like realistic and unrealistic scales, and actually BRINK and Puzzling Places are kind of at polar opposites on that scale, and it actually goes to show like that you can approach the same site and you can approach the same scan and to do two very different things with it. And so a lot of our players, since we launched, like one of the biggest features they always ask for is like, hey, can I just like zoom into the place and walk around in 1-to-1 scale? And to that, I would say, yes, you can with the Wave. And in fact, buy BRINK Traveler, because you can totally walk in a 1-to-1 scale and even at a higher quality, like texture resolution than anything you'd see in Puzzling Places with the puzzle.
Yeah. 1-to-1, I mean, getting that 1-to-1 scale is hard. There's a lot of, technical challenges of like, obviously like lots of texture data and like bigger file sizes. And, we liken it to like, it's like, you're like a magician. You're like trying to pull off a magic trick, and people go into these things like when at 1-to-1, like if there's anything that breaks that illusion, right. If there's anything that like, takes people out of it, it's, it doesn't work. So a lot of our work goes into trying to, make it as believable as possible at that scale. But, that, like, exactly like you said, one of the coolest features of VR is seeing stuff in miniature, like seeing this big thing really small in front of you is like, that's a super special experience, and vice versa, like seeing, being really, really small, and seeing something gigantic is also just kind of really, really cool. So it's just some of the things that you can only do in this medium.
Yeah. Well, Akin, I think this has been a really fun challenge and project for us to work on, and I'm really glad it's finally out for players to play.
Yeah, definitely. As we keep building more of these locations, we have this growing log of places we've gone and scanned, and I keep thinking while I'm out there of like, oh, this place would work really great as a home environment. Oh, this place would work really great as a puzzle. So hopefully this isn't this is just the beginning for us.
Yeah, I hope so as well. There's a lot more puzzles to be made, so
Yeah.
and good luck on your next projects. Is there a DLC that you'd like to promote or plug that you're working on?
So we're having a fall update coming out next month. So the update will be free for all existing users. So we come up with these. We've had this will be our 4th content update for everyone that's used our app. Lots of really great locations: New Zealand, Spain,
Wow.
France, Greece. A couple more places in the US, and actually a fully remastered Wave will be part of it. So,
wow.
The Wave is one of the oldest locations that we had in there, and we wanted a chance to kind of go back. Also, making this puzzle was an opportunity to kind of go back to the source and see where we could go with it. So that's something to look forward to as well. So the Wave will get a fresh reprocessed higher res textures and 2 other places in the Wave that you can kind of move around within. So something to look forward to for next month.
That's awesome. Hey, that's coming out at an opportune time. So actually, for a limited time, for the next 2 weeks, we have a Puzzling Places, BRINK Traveler, and the Wave bundle that's happening only for Quest, actually. Quest 1, Quest 2, and Quest Pro. Actually, I don't know if Quest 1 is supported for BRINK. Is it?
It currently is.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. So same as Puzzling Places then. We must be one of the last few that's still holding out.
Yeah, we're holding on.
Yes. It's currently as a bundle. We'll put it in the description. It is on sale for $22.99, which is a great deal on 2 fantastic experiences and an extra DLC, which is the Wave. So go check it out, go buy it, and help support these photogrammetry VR experiences, because there's very few and far in between.
Definitely.
Thank you, Akin, for joining us today and share some of your experiences on scanning and making VR games. Yeah. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.